Hi, my name is Dr. Ginger Dixon. I am excited to be part of the online prosperity show. And we get to talk about my adventures through nursing and epidemiology into public health. We get plenty of laughs about trying to pronounce the word epidemiology. And we get to go into, One Health and the development of it and what we can expect in the future. So I'm very excited and hope you can join us.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we have someone truly exceptional joining us, Dr. Ginger Dixon. Now, Ginger, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. And thank you so much for having me today.
Well, the pleasure is all mine, Ginger, because for those that are watching right now, thank you so much for tuning into the Online Prosperity Show. Who we have today is a powerhouse in the world of public health who's taken her nursing background and turned it into a mission to transform One Health. Now, Dr. Dixon's journey from bedside nursing to epidemiology, I have to learn how to say this word,
That is okay.
epidemiology, and
Yes.
eventually creating One Life Epi Solutions is nothing short of inspiring. Now, I want you to imagine a path driven by one, a mother's resilience, a leader's courage, and animals, and also a scientist's curiosity, all rolled into one mission, which is to improve the health for people and animals on the planet. Now, today, Ginger will be diving deep into her work, her vision, and her heart. And she's also going to be sharing insights that actually reveal why she's more than just an expert and she is a champion for a healthier world. Now, wouldn't that be nice for us to be healthy, wealthy, and having a happier existence? Now, I want you to expect a conversation that's not only enlightening, but one that might even make you laugh, nod, or even question some assumptions along the way. And I want, to hope that you will actually have a new perspective on the invisible links between our environment and the animals we actually share it with, and also the health we hope to safeguard our future generations. So let's dive in and see why Dr. Ginger Dixon's journey could be a blueprint into creating a lasting, impactful change that we all long for. Now, Ginger, I could go on and talk about things I'm not even, I can't even say epidemiology without breaking my character. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved, first of all, into public health.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to. And no, I get it. I was sharing before that when I was first in school, I always had trouble with saying biostatistics. And that was originally going to be my major. And I swear that was half the reason to change is I can't or at least say what the major is. And so somehow I found epidemiology just a little bit easier, but still it's a mouthful. So yeah, thank you. I'll start with you kind of hit the nail on the head with I started my career in nursing. My I actually it stemmed from my first kiddo, my oldest, was very sick as a baby and became sick with an infectious disease and was very fragile for a long time. I think they were in the hospital for about 6 weeks. And in that time, I got to see the work that the nurses were doing and gain an appreciation for both the power of infectious diseases and how they can take a toll, and then the power of healing that the care team did for them. And so, and then with that, they had a decreased immune system for a long time. So I had to get really good at like disinfecting and making sure that the environment was clean and, that they wouldn't contract something with their immune system anymore. So I started off in nursing and then did a little bit of everything. I moved to working in the hospital, and then I did long-term care and skilled nursing. Um, did a lot of case management and care in homes for folks, and then moved into triage, which I really like because triage nursing is very based on kind of these algorithms and research and understanding, what decisions evidence would support, and then providing guidance, on those decisions and things like that. And so that's how I started getting into the research and the data side. And then when I was nursing, we had the Ebola epidemic became a brief pandemic, and so that really kind of sparked me wanting to get into that work and be able to do more than what I was doing, or do more on like a global scale. And I it's a little bit of the transition between nursing to epidemiology and public health is a little bit of one of those like, well, I thought I'd go this way and then I pivoted and I went this way, and so I kind of went from this like biology research, and education to um, epidemiology and biostatistics, and got into public health that way. And here I am, and my journey through public health has been just as eventful and winding.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for taking us on that journey and especially, introducing us to the mother's love that then got you started on this journey. But I wanted to sort of take it back a little bit. You did mention, your first kid. My first daughter, she's just turned 9 right now, and recently was Halloween, if you would understand. And
Yes.
yeah, so she wanted to dress up as a witch, and I tried to give her so many different options, just simply because, first of all, I just hope that's not going to be a career choice. Now, you growing up, would you have just wanted to be a nurse, or is it something that just came about, as a result of what was available or what was easiest to pronounce, as I'm learning from from how you choose your
Right,
careers?
right. You know, so when I was a kid, I I looked at a bunch of different options, but I'm just gonna summarize it with I was a nerd and a hippie, and so I when I was a kid, I wanted to go and get. I remember telling my mom I wanted to get 2 doctorate degrees and 3 masters. Nobody else in my family had ever gone to college, and I was like, let's do it big. And I love learning. Like I'm one of those people that will just learn for the sake of going and learning something new. And so there was that. And then as I grew up, I realized like how expensive those degrees can be, and I'm like, oh, we'll just settle at one doctorate, it's fine. And so with with that, my hippie side wanted to go and do like yoga instruction and go travel in Tibet and the Himalayas. And, I really like learning about the spiritual side, and the environmental work, was also big then. And so um, I think part of my getting into One Health kind of married some of those things that were very like core values and principles that I've had since I was younger. But no, I definitely didn't plan like, oh, I'm going to go do this with myself when I was younger. I was just really trying to like, survive and get out there and, make it to adulthood. And so now in I had my first child at 17. And so, I don't think I really knew at that point. Like I said, I was just kind of trying to survive and get out there and make sure that I had a solid income to support them. And I think the nursing was a really good kind of introduction and segue for me, because it really developed um, that part of me that wanted to go like in service for people and for good, for public good. And um, And then from there, it was kind of just finding bigger and bigger ways to do more good for folks. But I really have some beautiful memories from nursing, and I think it gave me an opportunity to kind of give back the people that gave to my kiddo to keep them alive and healthy today. And so um, kind of
Absolutely.
both necessity and values, seeing what they were doing.
Well, I've seen the nerd side. I mean, obviously, you
Yeah,
just kept going and going and learning and learning. I'm yet to unveil the hippie side. If that came along in the journey or something like that. But you
yeah,
you're
that was
introducing
in the
us
beginning.
to you're introducing us to a younger Ginger who, at 17, is this the kid who for 6 months was going through health problems, the kid that you had then. Now,
Yes, yeah, for
at that age, at 17, did you have the support, and what was it like? I mean, obviously you obviously not yet an adult in many countries, because
right.
18 you become an adult, and you're having a kid who's presenting with so many of these hurt health challenges and concerns. What was going on with you then?
Yeah, so one, thank you. It's a great question, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Because in some ways I had a village, right? Like I had my family that was supportive in some ways, but in some ways I was also very much on my own, and then battling some of that stigma for young mothers. That people, I think, a lot of times don't respect the autonomy and intuition of young mothers. And there's a lot that I didn't know. I made a ton of mistakes. I am definitely a much better mother now, than I was back then. So my younger kids get like the better version of me. My oldest is the trooper, man. But uh, I think it was a struggle to be figuring out who you are and finding your place in the world, and then also having this little one that wholly depends on you. And I think that that trying to strike that balance of finding work that would let me be there for them and address, like their high medical needs, was really challenging. Especially a lot of that, I was a single mother or in a relationship that was not a healthy, supportive relationship like I'm thankful to have now. And so it was hard. Like I said, in some ways I had support and I had people there, but in some ways it was really, really difficult, and definitely had to find a lot of resilience. And then, like I said, my oldest is tough as nails, having gone through it all with me. We moved like 10 times over a couple of years, and they just kept on rolling with it. And it's a beautiful, amazing person for it today. So but yeah, I think there's a lot to address there. And I'm very thankful now to see that there are more opportunities, where we can interact with these virtual environments and virtual work opportunities, just for people to have that kind of independence and balance for themselves and their families.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hats off to you. I mean, obviously, I can only imagine if I would be looking in that sort of timeline and time frame. At 17, I couldn't even write my own name, and I'm not necessarily meaning the scribbling part of it, but what was I writing? Who was I becoming? And what was I at that particular time? And let alone the added situation that the kid came to present. But you went on and obviously were successful in that. Part of the child's growth was also homeschooled. Am I correct with having that understanding?
Yeah, yeah. Now I have two of my kids are homeschooled. It didn't start off that way, but I wanted to homeschool my oldest since they were in third grade, because they had some like just some learning challenges and things that I wanted to be able to work, and give more support to them on. And So I wanted to a long time ago, but finally had the, the means and the, again, just the work arrangements to be able to homeschool as they've gotten older. And so uh, we've been homeschooling for uh, 4-ish years for my oldest, and then my youngest has been 2 years. He's going in, or not my youngest, sorry, my second one, my youngest one to be homeschooling is he just started last year, and so this year is our second year. But yeah, I it was a lot. There's a lot in between, and a lot of growing up for me, and for both of us, and kind of just keep pushing through.
Mm. Now, now, Ginger, if somebody who would have been in your situation, I mean, obviously you've got that, medically dependent child that you really have to obviously look after 24/7, but you went on and you became a nurse. And part of the stuff that you were doing was like long-term care and really working with people that obviously have issues of their own. Somebody in your situation would have been like, oh, woe is me, let me deal with what I've got. But you went on and you did mention the word service. Was that a clear to you at that particular time, or was that sort of like a means to an end?
The as in the service part kind of keeping me going. Yeah, I think that is a big thing with nursing. First of all, you say hats off to me. Hats off to nurses in general. Like they are an amazing breed. And I laugh today. I'm not a licensed nurse anymore. Although I'm a nurse at heart, like for all time. I'm still the family nurse for sure. But I still follow like the nursing memes and stuff just because um there are moments when you're nursing when you just want to like run away screaming and you have to keep coming back because like the people need you, and especially in those environments where you get to care for people that you care, you see every day, every week. You really develop that relationship with them, and want to be there and care for them just like you would somebody from your family, um and then in general, I struggle a lot with anxiety. I've always struggled with anxiety. And so like that fear of the unknown of what you're going to walk into for a day in the life of nursing for me was always really tough. But it was really those opportunities where you come in and you really just like warm someone's day or warm their experience when they're in a hard place and going through a hard time. It's so rewarding. And so I definitely I miss that, and I still have those, like I said, those sweet memories of some of the people that I've got to be in their lives for a little while doing the nursing stuff.
Absolutely.
And the service part still carries on in public health. I just don't have a specific, service for this person anymore. It's
Mm,
broadly.
absolutely. Now, you raise an interesting fact there, the fear of the unknown and not necessarily knowing what the next issue will be or how it will present itself or who you will be in that particular situation. Because I can only imagine if it was me and somebody comes in with their bone sticking through their hand or something, I'd be like, ew, like.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I never did ER or like trauma nursing, but definitely I learned a lot about myself. My way of dealing things with things is like, okay, this is where we're at right now. Okay, this is happening. Like it's that, just that acceptance and like, yeah, this really sucks, but this is where we're at. Okay, let's just keep, moving forward.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you wouldn't find people like myself in situations like that. And talking about, you did also open up about anxiety, which I
Yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that a lot of people wouldn't, obviously in your position, would want to, create that facade that everything is fine. But you took
Yeah.
some big leaps in your career. You know,
Mhm.
like shifting from a stable role in nursing to then go into entrepreneurship. Like, didn't the anxiety just, come in and
Oh
be
yeah.
like,
Oh, still. Oh, still. Yeah. And especially so I'll dive in a bit about the business stuff because you brought up a point that 100% true. Yes. So yes, I've always struggled with anxiety since I was at least a teenager. I'm pretty sure as a kid too. And so I've learned one, I think it's really important that we be who we are. I'm not perfect. I'm never going to be perfect. I've never known anybody that doesn't struggle with some little bit of anxiety or, depression or some sort of mental health challenges. And I think it's better that we be transparent and be able to be there for each other and connect with each other that way rather than try to suppress it in the interest of, being this very professional, upstanding person because I found that you rally more, with other people and people tend to rally and support you when you need it that way too. And so always happy to share. And then so yeah, definitely anxiety during those big times of change. And recently, I started my business, the One Life Epi Solutions, back in uh I was forming it at the end of 2021, and then I started it um, formally in the beginning of 2022. Um, and then at times while developing the business, I've been working full time as an employee, or I had, other like more stable contract work. And I very recently actually left my full time employee work because I have four kids and because my oldest two have special needs and are homeschooling. My youngest two are both 3 and under right now, and they need a lot. They need a lot of stuff that I can't give if I'm working 40 hours a week and in a management, role on top of that in a very high demand job, which I loved. So I actually recently left that to go back to just developing out my business. And it is definitely, there is that fear of the unknown. But I've learned when I get worried about the unknown or, I'm feeling the anxiety, I go into like productivity mode and I plan and I organize and I, make like my game attack plan and um it's made me super productive over the years for sure. And it's gotten me through some of these like uncertain times. And then you end up finding great solutions, when you feel like your back's against a wall a little bit. And so it's definitely led to some great innovation and some great leaps forward, as you mentioned.
right? Now, Ginger, for somebody who's following through at 17, obviously you became a mom, and that was the situation, and you became a nurse. And as if that wasn't enough, you piled on the degrees and everything else that was happening behind the scenes that then got you to have the qualification you have now. And during the worst time when anybody would ever thought of being an entrepreneur. I mean, seriously, during the pandemic days, you decide,
Right.
stability is not for me. I'm gonna go in and go start a business.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know, what's funny too, I had just had my third baby, just started the doctorate program and was doing a certificate course on top of it and was like, yeah, let me do the business too. And I was doing contracting 40 hours a week. I have crazy moments. I don't know, but I'm actually trying to like get things off my plate these days and learn from some of the gray hairs that I've gotten trying to like pile on those things. But it makes you realize like you can do hard things and you can squeeze split out of a turnip and get 40 hours out of a 24-hour day if you work it if you work it enough. And so I don't know. It was a lot. it was a lot, but it's paying off now. I think all of that, like just that
Mhm.
drive and productivity. Like now I feel like I'm at a point where I can just kind of rest and let it, just build me through.
Well, like seriously, all the movies they've created about, I don't know how she does it. I think they need to be rewritten, because they missing a character, Ginger Dixon. Now,
Well, you're kind.
Ginger,
Thank you.
absolutely. Now, obviously, all of this is sort of happening. You did mention, the time when you became a mom, you had a village around you and people that would have sort of helped you. But when you sort of embarked into entrepreneurship, this is a whole different world. Many of us have people that have sort of guided us along the way. Was there any sort of mentor or someone that would have helped you focus on your goals during these early days? Because if you don't have that focus, and that resilience, even if you,
Right, right.
yeah, you're gonna need somewhat of help from other people, so you too can be do and have either a profitable business or a happier existence on your part.
Yeah, yeah. And I think even with the focus and the resilience, it's important to have people that have been there, done that, and can help to give you some of that advice. So there's a little less of learning by fire, and learning from their expertise and examples. And so absolutely, I have two people I think especially that were there near the beginning. The first is Dr. Charlotte Huntley. She is a public health entrepreneurship coach and consultant. Um, Fantastic woman. She is very, very vibrant, very, high achieving. I, I don't know. She is a queen in her own right. We'll just say that. So she provided some, like you said, like focus and guidance for me to really hone out this idea of what I wanted to do. And then kind of gave me that push for starting the business to be able to do the work that I wanted to do, without waiting for like a job description or a job posting to pop up for it, And so, um, and then as I was developing it, and getting that coaching, I really loved the creative freedom to develop what I wanted to see in the world. And then I also had Robert Farias is a little bit of a jack of all trades. Um, he was very engaged in laboratory diagnostics and um, with data science and machine learning AI type of uh, progress. And he had a lot of expertise too that he offered, and just kind of some guidance, and helped to, I guess, help me build out some of those early ideas and connections. Um, and so I think between the two of them, they offered very different types of support, but very good support. Robert was a little bit more. I think both are connected in the One Health space. But then I was also able to forge some really great networks in data science and folks in the international space, through Robert, and then still continue to work with both of them. And so it's been really wonderful just to kind of see how it's developed and flourished over the years.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's a statement that says, "I am this tall because of the shoulders of the giants that I'm standing on." So
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
pretty good. Now, you went on and created One Life Epi Solutions. Tell us a little bit about that venture and what you're hoping to achieve in the world.
Yeah, yeah. So the first part, it's epi because epidemiology is a mouthful, and I didn't want to have that in the business name. So
Well, I can't
for
even
people like
spell
you
it.
and
I
me.
can't even say it, so you can imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So that was intentional in the name because that's understandable. Um, yeah. So what I do in with One Life Epi Solutions, we have sort of a three-tiered business. So I do epidemiological consulting through that. So we do, to break that down a little bit, we help people to gather the data and information that they need. We help them look at it, break it down into something meaningful that they can take and use to understand what people need, to tell their story. And then we help break that down into action and evidence based action, right? So using the data to guide what we do next. Um, and then we also do One Health surveillance. So I had the opportunity during my doctorate work to develop sort of a proof of concept of a One Health surveillance system that integrated, I want to say 5 or 6 different data sources on the environment, events, and climate, uh, keystone species, animal species that are relevant to human health, and then also relevant to the stability of ecosystems. So they help to maintain the balance of, the different animals and the environment around them. And then also for human disease cases. So the surveillance system draws in all of those different components and then visualizes it on a dashboard where people can go in and interact and look at different animals and look at different timelines and see how those trends and the range and number of animals is changing over time, how that changes along with the climate and environmental events, and really get at some of those things that we want to look at in One Health. We're really trying to break down the silos and understand more about how all these different moving pieces are moving together. And I could probably spend a whole another 30, 45 minutes talking about that, but that's it in a nutshell. And then the third component, we have educational materials for youth called One Health Kids. And what those are we have a community of educators in public health and parents and home educators. And then we've developed interactive ebooks. We offer, activities for kids and resources through that community. And then we're very excited soon to be coming out with more video lessons and lesson plans so that people can really take that to the next level in that work and education for kids. And that way, I talk about a lot in my other, presentations and work with folks that one, I'm a parent and an educator along with this public health side of me. And I see how much my kids soak this in and how they're already incorporating it into their view of the world and how much, how they think about like, oh, let's trap the mice that are outside of our house and take them down the street, or something like that instead of like, oh, we don't want to kill them. And, oh, this food brings them in and then this predator. And, it's really, kids are brilliant and it gives them this opportunity to integrate this worldview at their age. And then that way they'll carry that into their adult work and be even more mindful of these concepts in One Health and build, their lifestyle and their businesses and their work around this type of thinking. So I think that's the best way to protect our future, is to build this into the way that our kids think now, and they'll take it 5 steps further than we ever thought that we could. And so, the One Health Kid stuff is very near and dear to my heart, as you can see.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you so much for doing your part in making, the future of our planet a better place. I mean, over the weekend, I was, we were just sitting in my backyard and my little girl was just following a bee that was going from flower to
Yeah,
flower. Do you know what I mean? And I can see what you're talking about because obviously the bee is transporting pollen, from flower to flower, which is
right.
obviously, pollinating the plants for fruits and everything else that comes along with it. Yet, if she didn't understand what that bee's purpose was. She could probably trap it in some sort of thing, and then it probably suffocates and dies. And well, she's happy she caught something, but the planet is sad. It hasn't, got yet another bee to pollinate its fruits and flowers. Now,
Yeah, yeah.
just so that people have an understanding of how this works and the relevance of what you're doing in the world, could you maybe give us an example of a project that you would have worked on that really encapsulates the sort of the kind of positive change that One Life Epi Solutions aims to achieve? I mean, obviously you might not go into detail, but if you can just say, hey, there's this that was happening down the street, and then it created this sort of change for the people that we were working with, etc.
Yeah, yeah. So it's always hard to think of like one one thing. And especially, we've been engaged in different projects over the years. I think some of my favorite have been sort of these collaborative projects with our international I'm just going to call them friends. I would say they're partners, but they become friends over this time. And so, for example, there is an organization called the acronym is FETPAFI. It's FETPAFI, and I don't want to take a shot at spelling that out right now because I don't want to get it wrong. But it starts with field epidemiology. And it I think was formed originally as like an alumni type of association for epidemiologists. And they are in the Philippines and have done amazing work with the field epidemiology. So that means like really getting into the nitty gritty of going in the field in connection with people and looking at cases and looking at, what types of things in the environment are causing this disease transmission, and doing education, one-on-one with people. It's very much like the nursing side, the direct care nursing side of epidemiology. So they wanted to, there was a grant opportunity to expand their surveillance efforts that they already had in place into more of a One Health comprehensive type of surveillance framework. And so we had the opportunity to work with them, with it's the Mirandas. It's like a husband and wife power couple. They're both epidemiologists, amazing people. And then another colleague, Dee Sandhu, that works in policy and communications. So we had this really great like powerhouse team putting together this plan for how to really do a ground level community participatory type of surveillance system, and got to flesh out that plan. And unfortunately, we didn't get the funding for it, but however, they still have the ability, to take that plan and use it to build out the work that they're doing in the communities. And so sometimes I feel like, we even just the process of developing a plan or reaching for that next step, even if you don't get, the job or the funding or the win essentially for whatever you were reaching for, it still advances things and we can still put all of that to use. And so that's one that I really enjoyed, and then I can think of like a smaller example locally with the One Health kids. We did a booth for a kids health day with a local organization. They did like a fair, and the fair, when I brought my kids to, they had a blast, and we brought home a dog. So, you know, yeah. Anyway, so the fair was really cool because I had a lot of different, health booths, and they were doing like different education things, and we made a game, and it was called Find the Germ, and it has like this little desert landscape, and I had lots of fun building this because the kid in me loves, building little models and making little things. And so I built a little desert landscape, and then we got little desert animals, and we velcroed um, little stickies on the bottom of them, and then we made a little germ, and we would stick the germ on the underside of different animals, and it's almost like, the ball and cup game where you have to like guess where the ball is underneath.
I
They had to
guess.
guess, see if they could find the germ in the animals, and so if they guessed right, they got a prize. If they didn't guess right, they still got a prize. They still got like little wildflower seeds and stuff, and then when they guess the animal, then we do like some education about that animal and how they fit in the ecosystem, and like what diseases they could spread if they got sick, and then we handed out some educational materials on like the local animals and stuff. We had so much fun. It was so fun, and some of the kids, they figured it out. They sit there and watch and be like, okay, all right, they did that way, and it's got to be over here. They're I guess like kids are brilliant. They were figuring
Absolutely.
out the game.
Absolutely, absolutely. Oh, I like that. I like that. And I quite like, how your face lit up when we started talking about that. I mean, you're a mother and also being a mother of four, I can only imagine that, your work has this unique personal resonance to you, especially when you're working alongside your kids as well, and also seeing other kids wanting to join in on that fun. But my question to you is, how do you now balance between being a dedicated parent while also leading? Because your business has got a global nature to it. You know what I mean? Like leading
Right.
a business that's on a mission to take on such big impact.
Yeah. I so balance is something that I am learning to do better. I tend to be I can do it, I can take it on. Let me do this too. And I really sometimes I spread myself way too thin, to where I'm not doing a good job at anything, and I'm learning to say no to certain things that don't meet my values and priorities. And there are some things I'm going to say yes, whether I have a time or not, because, like if it's somebody needing help, or, if it's something really urgent, like that's what you do. You drop stuff and you go and you tackle it. But, um, so I'm learning to say no. It's one of the big things. And then I've learned to um, I've always prioritized things, but I've learned to kind of keep like a right now, a soon, and then a back burner list. And I'll pull something, from like the right now stuff's got to get done right now, but then I'll pull some things from the back burner list, and then I've learned when I'm planning my day, I have I have my four bubbles, right? I have my work, I have my family, I have my home, and then I have myself. And I've learned to like put one thing at least in my self bubble so that I at least get in something for that day, to like recharge and keep myself going, because burnout is real, and I tend to like, go 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 until I'm just done and my body tells me you have to rest. And so I'm learning now to put something in that self bubble and to prioritize a little bit better, and then to take that time when I'm feeling it, take that time and rest. And I've learned that like getting just an hour or two of being low key or resting, then I recharge, and then I hit back to, the ring, right? Like the boxing ring, and tackle everything. And I do a much better job when I do that and just take out that little bit of time. And then the really like, um, super organized planning side of me, I made like a color coded schedule for my family. we have we have different colors of what we're working on and what we're doing each day. And I planned in time for, school and library and self care and, all those things. And uh, it's a work in progress, but those are some things that have helped me out a little bit.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for sharing that, because in and of itself, a lot of people are always looking to others for clues on how to have a happier existence. And, at times like when everything just seems to be on top of everyone, the economy,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you guys over there, the elections or whatever has just surfaced for people. You know what I mean? It just seems like too much. But if they hear it from someone like yourself, it just sort of softens the blow a little bit. But what if we could do the same
Yeah.
for yourself? If we could reflect on your journey, because you introduced us to 17-year-old Ginger, who obviously was presented a whole world of complications with, motherhood and everything else that then ensued after that. If you could maybe have 17-year-old Ginger watching this video right now, what sort of words of advice would you tell that young woman, knowing what you know now about life and who you became?
Yeah. Oh gosh. Um, I so I when I always have a hard time with this because I think I'm a very firm believer in like you have to go through all of the muck. And so I really I wouldn't have told myself much different because I think going through the muck over and over again, mind you, so that starting off at 17 actually wasn't the worst of what I went through and what formed me, I think, in my kind of grit and confidence that I have nowadays. But I honestly, the thing that I've learned most recently that has just really been amazing that I would tell myself back then. I wish I had learned that earlier is the the that kindness and that really like because I've always when I was younger I had the tendency to like want to do for others and be kind to others. I wasn't kind to myself very much. And I learned, and I would hold myself to these like impossible standards or beat myself up or somebody said something bad or mean towards me and it just ingrained down. And I've learned to be kinder and more patient with myself. And then that reflects out into like being kinder and more patient with everybody else too. And so my experience these days, I still go through, like we go through some stuff, but all of it seems a little bit softer and easier to manage these days because I just kind of have everything feels enveloped in this sort of warmth and love, and sometimes when I get cranky and I'm having my moment, I go back to that like that feeling, and that kind of just brings me back to where I need to be in a good place. And I don't know, I think finding that part of yourself, that like that very warm, loving, empathetic side, and then just like holding on to it 24/7, has been the biggest thing that's helped me and to yourself, right? Because like I said, I really didn't get a good grasp of it until someone's like, hey, you should be kind to yourself. It's like, oh yeah, that's right. So
Absolutely.
just
And thank you so much for that, because you can't give off of that you don't have. You
right.
can't give up love or
Yeah.
kindness or anything. Yes, you might think you're being kind to other people, but if you're not being kind to yourself, literally you're taking away from zero. And
Yeah,
naturally, there's
exactly.
yeah, so pretty much. I mean, you did say you were a hippie, so maybe you didn't fly that much back in the time. But they usually
Yeah.
always say put your mask on first. When you're the flight attendants, they say please put your mask on first. So that's where the
Yeah.
kindness and everything else sort of
Right.
comes into play. All right, but obviously, since you're now doing stuff for other people and everything else, you've got that sorted and things of that nature. For those that are now listening, who you're doing this for, and maybe they want to do their part and maybe changing their own communities or doing something towards, obviously a healthier well-being for themselves and their loved ones, what sort of advice would you give them on starting impactful health or environmental initiatives that will lead them to have a happier existence?
Yeah, yeah. With the One Health side, I think the biggest shift that everyday folks can do is just shifting that mindset. It's a lot of sort of this systems thinking where you think about how one thing affects another. I guess the biggest my day to day, right, is like, what am I gonna do with the leftover bits of this, salad or whatever was chopped melons. I was chopping up a ton of melons this weekend. Anyway, so like, oh, and I can use this to compost and then it'll help my soil. And then my soil in the back will grow the better grass. And then that'll help, to bring in all the little critters and um I don't know, like things like that. And then being mindful about how we conduct our everyday stuff, how are we treating the animals and the environment around us? And then um, how are we leading by example in the way that we throw away our trash or reuse things instead of buying new ones, or we struggle with, there's the newest iPhone. Like, can we can we bear and use what we've got, and I it's little things like that I think is very much like kind of we've had those things ingrained in us for a long time, like the reduce, reuse, recycle, and how to throw away your trash and those types of things. But I think very much still built into and it varies based on the place, right? But oftentimes, especially here in the United States, there's very much a culture of, let's buy new stuff, let's get new, oh, we have XYZ, but this one is better, let's do this. And kind of shifting our mindset even in how we buy and how we sustain ourselves and how we cook our food. And then looking at when we are changing some of those behaviors, which I think with COVID, we all got a lot more awareness, right, of disease transmission between people, especially. But I think there's still a lot of work to be understood about disease transmission between animals and humans, and then it's actually reciprocal. I think we spend a lot of time worrying about the diseases that we can get for animals, and like, oh, don't pick up that bird; it might have West Nile virus. But it's also we learned with COVID that we can get our animals sick, and give them COVID, and then and then they're getting sick and spreading it, and it just is there's a lot of pieces I think still that we can integrate into our everyday life of that systems thinking and using things that we already know, just being more mindful of it and then changing the way that we purchase and do business. Because I think a lot of times the reason why I mentioned that kind of, buy new stuff or buy these types of things, what we find is that a lot of times the consumer choices also drive business and production culture. And so then as we drive business and production culture towards more sustainable habits in those types of systems, then I think that will also help improve environmental health and then, come down the line to environmental, animal and human health. And so there's a lot of pieces. And as an everyday life, I think those are some of the things that folks can focus on. And then as an epidemiologist, I think looking at the data, let's base our decisions off of the data and what evidence we have. And there's a lot of information out there that can be used and be applied, and it's all just about connecting the different pieces and using it, and applying it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, it's people like yourself that obviously we might not see in the front lines, but you're literally doing so much behind the scenes for us to actually just breathe fresh air, you know? Some people don't quite understand that. So, I mean, obviously, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today, but oh, you've
Mhm.
accomplished a lot. Again, hats off to you. I mean, all the stuff that you've done and things that you're doing behind the scenes, which a lot of people will only know when it's, when it's there in their face. But I actually sense that this is only just the beginning for you. I mean, from what you're saying, there's just so much that you've yet to unleash onto the world. What's next? First, maybe for One Life Epi Solutions, and maybe where do you see the future of One Health heading?
Yeah. Yeah, I hope to accomplish a lot more. I got some gray hairs, but it's not all gray yet. We're good. Plan to keep working long into it. Um, so I'll go broad and then I'll get into the work that we're planning. So broadly for One Health, and public health, I'm seeing some incredible advances in, again, the way that we link data, and the way that we link organizations and policies. So in the past, what we experienced, and I think what COVID really highlighted, was that we have, um, it was very hard to connect one person's information to another and to keep those two information sources talking to inform decisions and make better decisions. And then that not everybody was on the same page with how they were working together and the work that they were doing. And so, um, across the board, internationally and nationally here for the US, there's been a lot of collaboration between, health organizations. I'm trying to remember the three. I think it's FAO, WHO, and the UN. Lots of letter acronym organizations. But they've sort of formed this across the board policy framework for implementing One Health on a global scale, which is amazing and something that has been called for several years now. So that's a fantastic advancement. And then, like I said, in other fields, in public health, I've worked not only in One Health, but also in infectious disease and in prevention. So things like suicide and overdose prevention, maternal child health, injury and violence prevention. And across the board with those disciplines and fields, also, they're doing the same thing where they're trying to kind of use everybody's data together and link it to get more information and get a better understanding, and then innovate the way that we get data and put the pieces together to make it more efficient and like real time. Um, and then again, to kind of put everybody on the same page and get everybody talking. So that's the work, like I said, on the broad level that folks are doing. For us, for One Life Epi, we are offering the One Health surveillance we offer as a service, either to come in and develop that surveillance system for people, or to train people. If folks have their own team, we come in and we train them on how to implement and develop the surveillance system. And the coolest thing about it, something that was very intentional from the beginning, is that it can be done either for free or at very, very low cost if you have the right people in place. And if they have the know-how, right? Like, so I think that makes it so that these smaller communities and more local organizations can gather this information and use it, because they're the ones that are really on the ground. I talked about the field epidemiology. They're the ones that are really like on the ground, going, house to house, or calling people directly to provide education and understand what's going on in their local areas and utilize the resources that they have to combat those illnesses. And so we're going to be moving forward and continuing to, revise and expand that and continue to innovate what it can do and what it can offer for folks. We do the public health consulting, broadly, and are continuing to offer that. And then with the One Health Kids, so far we have our interactive ebooks, and like I said, we're expanding that into lesson plans for people to either take and use for individuals or for groups or schools, and then also offer the benefit of video lessons and resources and tips and things to really help support people getting this education out there. So those are our next steps, and we've got a lot of growing and a lot of areas that we'll be moving into for sure.
Absolutely. And where can people follow this journey? I've noticed you've got your One Health Wednesdays, and you're on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. And also, if you could just direct us to places where people can follow this journey themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a ton of social media outlets. We have our website, yes, the onelifeepisolutions.com. You can follow One Life Epi Solutions and me on LinkedIn. We have the One Health Wednesdays podcast, which is actually a collaborative effort with a group. That's with Robert Farias with LabOp. And then recently, we've also brought in a group called GBL4 that does game-based learning to really enhance the content for the podcast. Very talented people there. And then we showcase other experts in public health and One Health. And then we are also on for One Health Kids, as that's really intended to reach out to general communities. One Health Kids is also on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest to offer people resources on those platforms.
Absolutely. I'll definitely make sure that all those links are in the show notes below. And I must say this one last time, epidemiology, because this is the most I've said
You
this
got it.
word.
Yes. You've nailed it. You've nailed it. And that's
Fantastic.
impressive.
Thank
I get
you.
it.
Now I can go and rest. Now, what a powerful conversation, Ginger. Thank you so much for sharing not just your expertise, but your heart and the vision behind One Life Epi Solution. I mean, your journey from nurse to leader in One Health is just a reminder that there's an incredible resilience and empathy that can actually fuel change, or the change that we want in the world. And looking at your LinkedIn, it says, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? And I feel like you're
Yes.
literally embodying that statement. It's not just a what do we want, like type statement that everyone is
Yeah.
saying out there, beating drums. So I really hope everyone that's listening today is feeling as inspired as I am. And thank you so much for taking the time to explain such a complex scenario and topic and making it very, very understandable, even for a brain like mine. Now I can say epidemiology, as if that's
Yes.
going to be my dinner conversation today, Ginger, you know?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. You got to give yourself more credit for sure. I no, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share, and for the great conversation today too. I got plenty of laughs myself, so I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching right now, our viewers and listeners, if this episode really resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Rewatch it, share it with someone who could actually benefit from this message. And don't forget to subscribe to more insightful episodes of the Online Prosperity Show. You literally can just jump on to the playlist of all the experts that we've had, a chance to speak to. Maybe you too can find your word. My word today is epidemiology. I had gotten it
Yes.
right. And you know what they say? You leave it at a high. Now I'm gonna have to I
Oh
have
no, you'd be like practicing in the shower, epidemiologist, epidemiologist. Oh
fantastic.
goodness.
Well, I
It
really
took me a few
appreciate
years, don't worry.
I really appreciate everyone that's watching right now for being a part of the online prosperity community. And together, let's just keep building a world where prosperity means health, community, and a thriving planet. Until next time, bye for now.